Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. This is Tala with Drive-thru Therapy, the real sessions, coming at you towards the end of February. Yep, Valentine's is over. However, I'm still going. It's been a crazy month, but I'm here with you tonight, and I'm hoping to get the message across of what I really want to talk about. Because as everybody is thinking about romance, it got me thinking about early romantic programming, and I want us to make sure that we clarify one thing first. And that is that love, we are all capable of generating, right? We produce the hormonal responses of what is love and bonding and all that good stuff. But there is another element, which is individual to each person. Although we all produce or generate the hormones of love or the feelings of love, it is individually the case that we all have a romantic ideal. At times we confuse that. We think that romance and love is the same thing. It is not actually the same thing. Again, love is more of the feeling of love. I can generate love towards my pet, towards my friends, children. It could be my mom, my dad, a partner. But romance is particularly tied to an idea of a romantic programming that deals with sort of a relationship or a partnership. And that is usually individual programming that each person has. A lot of us could consciously accept things universally, I guess, accept romantic ideals. For example, we like the idea of roses and chocolates on Valentine's. We can all accept this as a romantic ideal as a society. But in fact, each individual might definitely interpret that differently. And let's even focus further on what tonight's topic is saying, is that at times the reality of the person I'm with does not match the fantasy in my head, or the romantic ideal is another way to say that. They don't match. And what does that mean? What are the early programming we have that we need to pay attention to, because it really impacts our expectations of partners, and it impacts how much we tolerate and why we do it. Have you ever dated someone and thought they'd be perfect if they just communicated better, or were more ambitious, or were more affectionate, were more like the version of them that I see in my head? It poses the question, am I really looking at them as who they are, or am I trying to edit them into my early romantic programming? And this is what we're going to answer today. You're really going to get to know yourself, not just an attachment style, but really programming that is conscious and subconscious programming that we're going to talk about today, that helps you choose who you're going to be with and who you want to be with, even if it's subconsciously you don't want to be with them. I work a lot with clients that are going through different experiences in their lifetime. So whether it's dating, whether it's trying to make a relationship work, whether it's divorce, whether it's marriage, I work through a bit of everything with people. And I always use what I've learned watching people, not just textbook, because textbook has only taken me so far. Working with people, now that goes further. And so I'm here to let you know what I've learned and be real with you. Clients are my biggest teachers. So I want to relay this message to you as best as I can. And that stuff that you're going to use and need to be aware of, especially if you're in a partnership right now, or you're about to date or dating. And why am I choosing people that may not necessarily be what I consciously want, but I still stay in there? So if that's happening to you, that's a really important point tonight. We're really going to look at, why am I choosing to stay with someone, for example, that isn't a match to what I consciously want. I could consciously want Noah from The Notebook, right? But I am with someone who is not a Noah. This person is like a fixer-upper. But this is the thing. This is mirroring to you that there's something else going on beyond what we're wanting consciously. There are subconscious needs or rules that we go by that pick our partners with us. So it's not just a conscious awareness thing. Logic isn't where love is located. It's not located in the logical place of the brain. It's located in the emotional part of the brain. So you have to understand how emotions work. And that part of the brain is in fact driven by hormonal changes and also driven by memory, what we learn to do, the messages that we learn to follow early on, consciously or unconsciously follow. Now, of course, I know that some people might have trouble with this, but that's okay. We're not born overnight, friends. A lot of our programming for romantic ideals really start at early on when we begin to attach with family. At that point, we get certain messages unconsciously that really work to help us survive early on. And some of these messages that we acquire come from the attachment with our parents. Those are our first attachments that we have. These are the people that take care of our needs. And then from that point, we learn what love feels like, what love requires, how much work do I have to put into love in order for me to get it back. We also learn how we have to be to receive love. Do I hide parts of me in order for me to get love? The things that we unconsciously start creating, those rules that we unconsciously start creating, or the messages that we get is like, love is earned, love is unstable, maybe. Love means that I need to be needed or be useful to someone. Love can sometimes mean that we argue. Like love is okay to argue and to feel intense and act on emotions by cussing someone out because I'm angry and I'm upset, and that's acceptable because it was done in front of me. So I think unconsciously that love has this chaotic element. Now, these are the unconscious messages that we're getting, perhaps in attachment, but it's not all from there. It's not all from attachment. We try to now create a fantasy, if you will. And this fantasy is an ideal. It's like an ideal profile of what romantically we want. And this ideal solves problems from an unconscious level. So, for example, if I've always felt like love needed to be earned, I won't be comfortable or familiar with a guy, for example, that is equal and reciprocal, kind to me or generous with me. I will be attracted out of familiarity to a person who is less generous, maybe somebody who questions whether I am valuable or not. So it makes me earn his love. I'll work a little harder. I'll give a lot of my boundaries to do that. I'll argue with them, try to convince them of my value, tell them what I've been doing for them. And of course, I'll accept that he doesn't see it, and that's acceptable for me. Now, I didn't say consciously acceptable. Subconsciously, I'll argue back and still keep that person. I won't protect myself from that person. I'll keep that person, argue with him. Oh man, you have no idea how many times I see that we sit there and we argue with partners and convince them to become different. Yeah, if you're doing that, you know what's up now. It's working off an emotional ideal that is subconscious. But we do develop a conscious romantic ideal as well. And that romantic ideal could be definitely from best case scenarios like movies, books that we've read early on. And movies are a very strong, I've noticed through the years, very strong motivator for the development of that romantic ideal. Again, with the unconscious rules, it forms consciously the great qualities we would like to have that are desirable along with our subconscious rules. Again, it's like we're trying to get a guy who's, we say consciously, we accept a guy who's mysterious, but subconsciously, this type of mysterious guy, quote, is vague. They're inconsistent. They're driving me mad because I'm thinking about what they want, what they need. It doesn't leave me peaceful. And so I'm constantly working hard. But I think this is romantic. Do you get what I'm saying? So consciously, I think I'm wanting a guy who's mysterious, somebody who's doesn't give everything away at first. Sexiness or romantic ideal to that.
But in reality, I could be wanting to work that muscle in me that tries to figure a guy out and try to earn their attention. I want to prove my value with this kind of guy who's inconsistent, doesn't communicate well, perhaps. And I'm thinking this is romantic and mysterious. Do you get what I'm saying? That's how our mind works. So we have those conscious ideals that we develop, and we have subconscious rules that we develop about love. And they sometimes, and a lot of times actually, contradict one another. So I could want someone who is generous and kind and loving to me, but I will go and be with consistently a guy who is not generous, who's not kind. So I need to understand what's motivating me here. And most of the time, it is something that's unconscious and at times is not logical. It doesn't exist in the logical realm or romantic ideal because I consciously want a Noah. But what I'm getting is someone that's toxic, someone that doesn't listen to me or doesn't seek to understand me, not interested in what I'm interested in, not a good communicator, but yet I make justifications for them to fit that role that I'm wanting them to play, that ideal I'm wanting them to play. This is dangerous. Our mind can be dangerous in this case, and it can deceive us if we're not self-examining. So the work we need to do, friends, is to become consciously aware of our subconscious programming, our romantic ideals, right? That we may try to fit people in. And what I mean by fitting in is that, again, I want a person to play a role. And it's an accumulation of multiple characters who have multiple characteristics that I like, that I romantically idealize consciously, right? Like I said, Noah from the Notebook. I personally love a nice Rhett Butler from Gone with the Wind. I watched that movie first when I was in Egypt. I was young, and my mom said, "No, you're gonna like this movie. Watch it." And so I sat. This movie is like 4 hours long. Okay, I don't know anything about the United States. I haven't been there yet, and I remember watching this 4 hours, and I stayed up watching this. Okay, everybody fell asleep, but I stayed up watching this movie, and I thought, how romantic is this guy? He just didn't give up on her, but he had some toxic traits himself. But again, early programming thought this was romantic and it was a romantic ideal. And so subconsciously, I may have looked towards some of these conscious things, like Rhett Butler was somebody who was forward, direct, knows what he wanted. And I confused that in a subconscious realm with somebody who's more aggressive and more controlling. And I may have thought that was love. So I want you to understand that all of it matches. It's contradictory, but it's part of our programming and it doesn't have to make sense. So you have to understand the subconscious rules or subconscious ideals that we have romantically from an illogical sense. But again, I would try to fit a non-Rhett Butler into a Rhett Butler in my head to do that, right? That character, I would try to put whoever my love interest or whoever I'm attracted to, try to put them in there. But if they didn't fit because I was attracted to them in some way, I would make justifications for them in my head, and that would be reasonable for me. That would be fine because eventually I can get them to be there. Again, the mind, if left unchallenged, unexamined, it'll try to shove that person into the role you want them to play. So you'll excuse some of their characteristics that definitely could be harmful to you, and just focus and hone in on the positive characteristics that you enjoy or that you want them to play. In this way, we piece off our partner, we piece off our love interest into little pieces. We choose to see the good and not the stuff that's not so good. And then later on, relationship with them years later, we're kind of complaining about them. We're arguing with them constantly. We're yelling, screaming matches. We're trying to chase them, make them be who I want them to be. And we're thinking this is part of a relationship. This is what we do. We have to argue. And I'm like, does it really have to happen that way? Do we really have to argue as much as we do? And in fact, no, we don't have to argue. As a matter of fact, we could talk about difficult things in a healthy way. It can be done. It just requires practice, and it requires conscious awareness of my own programming, so that this way I'm not reinforcing old subconscious beliefs in my current relationships and how I'm choosing a partner and how I continue to stay with a partner that doesn't consciously match what I'm wanting. For example, I consciously want someone who's a good communicator, but I choose someone who is very difficult at communicating, stonewalls, gaslights, inconsistent, and I think that's okay. Now, it's not all the other person as well. I need you to know that the most of what I'm choosing is me. That's from my mind. My brain is filtering this choice that I'm making with another human being. They're not forcing me to be with them. That's why I don't understand when people complain about their partners. I mean, I can relate to it early on that I did that, but in all reality, I'm the one choosing them. This is a problem I can fix at any time, friends, when I understand how my mind is working. My partner is mirroring to me my subconscious rules that may not be healthy. Yet I'm not willing to admit that I got to do some work in that area. So what I do is try to fix the conditions outside of me, meaning try to control them and their behavior and manage their behavior instead of looking and shifting inward, which is what I must do in order for me to correct this. So I hope that this makes sense for you guys, that early romantic programming helps us through, helps us kind of cope by having a fantasy or creating a profile of a romantic ideal that we consciously want from movies, from friends that we see, family that we see who have partnerships that we could want. But also we do select unconscious ideals or rules that we play by that may not be healthy and that we need to look at. We really need to look at. I come from an unhealthy, toxic upbringing. And again, I thought Red Butler was a romantic ideal. So you can imagine the types of choices I made. And I could tell you this, it really had nothing to do with them. They knocked on my relationship door and I opened that door right up and invited them right in. So I'm not like a victim of anything. I'm not a bystander and I'm not helpless to this. I chose whatever I was looking at and I invited them right in when they knocked on my door. So it served me. It was for my needs. It was to meet my needs. Sometimes I could lie to myself and victimize myself consciously and say, well, I gave them this and I gave them that and they're just not reciprocating. Well, I need to understand that is something that I need to look within myself. Why am I giving to someone who is not reciprocating? Rather than forcing them and making them do this and trying to change them, I need to look at why I would do that. Why would I be a match to trying to change someone? What goal am I trying to meet on the inside subconsciously? Do I want to prove my value by taking a person who doesn't really reciprocate well, and I want to give everything so this way they can finally give me what I'm needing, and I'm resolving old childhood issues of getting unrequited love to be requited? And this is wild, but it is in fact a fact for most of us on the inside that that's what we may be doing. Again, if you are in a relationship that is off balance and you are consistently engaging in it, friends, take a look within, just like I had to do, and face those shadow aspects of me that I'm not revealing to myself. The questions I may be wanting to ask at this point are, who did I learn love from? What did I have to be to receive love? When I feel disappointed in my partner, what fantasy is being violated? This is really important, friends. What fantasy is being violated? For example, if my partner on Valentine's Day gets me a present that they think is great, it's a handmade or thoughtful present, but what I really wanted are the flowers and the roses and the chocolates and like this big grand gesture that I fantasize about. And I'm offended when they bring me this thing, this little gift that they thought is important, right? For example, then I need to take a look at what fantasy is being violated on the inside. So this way I could see what I'm comparing this person to, what ideal I'm comparing this person to. Is that serving me or not serving me? At that point, I'd be asking. Another question that I want you to ask is, do I fall in love with potential more than the actual presence or facts about a person? Do I see them accurately, or do I just fall in love with the potential? Like, this could work. He or she could eventually get better once they fall in love with me more. They'll give me more once they fall in love with me more. This is a consistent one that we all think subconsciously. Another question you might be asking yourself is, if this person never changed, would I still choose them? So if this person is very stingy, and I'm thinking that they have to fall in love with me more in order for them to give me more. I'm thinking that that's what it is. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting that they'll eventually give me more. And I have this theory that if I give more, they'll give me finally more. But in fact, I stay with them. And let's say I address this from the beginning. I see that they're stingy right from the beginning, that they're just, it's just not a generous individual. In this case, I would ask myself, would I still choose them if I really saw this from the beginning? And you'll be able to get to self-honesty and help protect yourself from choosing partners or continuing a relationship. Let me put it that way. Continuing a relationship that isn't healthy, that is just mirroring to you all the stuff that I need to work on, all the wounds that I need to reflect on and process. If I have to keep asking myself, how do I get them to be what I'm needing? How do I get them to communicate better? How do I get them to love me more? How do I get them to prioritize things I need them to prioritize? I need to shift quickly, as fast as possible, to asking myself, can I accept who they are? And then I need to decide whether that particular trait or those habits that I'm seeing that I'm not liking, can I accept them? And if they align with what I'm wanting, ideally. If they're not, then I need to be honest with myself. And you'll realize after you work on this long enough, that mature love, that real love, is not about molding someone into what you want. Because those are those traumatic habits, like those problems that I want to fix, those unresolved issues I want to fix with this new partner. Mature love is less about molding and more about alignment. Do those characteristics align with me? And if they don't, well then, have a good day. I wish you well. We don't try to fix anyone. We don't try to make anyone available when they're emotionally unavailable. We don't choose distant partners to finally be chosen. We don't do all that. The goal isn't necessarily for us to erase those romantic programming. That's not what I'm wanting for us to do. It is to become aware of it. So you know what play I'm wanting these characters, these real people to play inside my head. These little movie scenes I want them to play inside. I'm going to stop asking these individuals subconsciously or even consciously to act like this and like these stories that I have in my head. I'm going to now understand that people are to be seen as a whole, not pieced off, and certainly not to be compared to an ideal, and make them be that ideal. And we'll argue with them, try to convince them, be angry at them, manipulate by withdrawing love or forcing whatever it is that we're chasing, or, that if you're doing any of this stuff, I assure you this stuff is coming from a subconscious realm, and that we need to look at ourselves, not the partner. Stop complaining about that partner. That partner is a problem you can solve. Say it with me. It's a problem I can solve at any moment of the day. Yep. Okay. You guys are champs for taking this discussion. And I hope this makes sense about the early programming, subconscious and the conscious ideals that we have, looking at them. And again, we're not erasing romantic programming because we really can't, but we want to kind of take a look at if I'm shoving people into trying to be that. And in fact, are they aligning with me to begin with? Are they aligning with what I'm wanting in a relationship, or am I shoving them into that role and making them be because I have a fear of abandonment? All right. I hope this was useful to you guys. I know it's useful to me, and it has been in the past, and it's a continuous effort. If you're dating, it's a continuous effort to try to weed people out that really are not in alignment with you, and really understand that your romantic ideals are great, but taking a look deeper, besides what do I want in a partner, but am I a match to that partner that I'm wanting? More importantly, will I wait for them, or will my self-esteem grab the next attractive guy, attractive form, and make them be what I want them to be? Okay. I hope that you guys are having a great February and that you are safe and sound. As always, I'm sending you love and light. Marcel Proust said, "Love is a striking example of how little reality means to us." And this has been an episode of Drive-thru.